One of the things many golfers don't understand is the difference between these two terms, and those would be static and dynamic motions. So, what we have here for this golfer in particular is someone that is working really hard to try and statically put the golf club and their golf swing in all these perfect positions, but we lose sight of what we're actually trying to accomplish. And the task is hitting that golf ball far, right? So, if I were to play this swing forward and play it in real time, what you're going to notice is this player takes their backswing methodically slow back and then tries to explode into the golf ball. And what that's doing, it's causing a myriad of problems because there's no fluidity to it for them to transfer and move things around properly in the proper time and space. So let's watch what this golfer does. Here we go. And here comes the golf swing. Very slow on the way back, and then a pound right into the golf ball. Now, there's some really good things going on in this golf swing, and let's talk about them. Number one, at setup, this player is in a very good position. The one thing I would make note of is if I were to change a couple things for this golfer, it would be number one, how far forward their upper body is over kind of past their toes. So, sometimes we tend to do things like early extend because we're not in a good position to set up and actually hit the golf ball. So this golfer has a lot of bend in their knees, and they're very, very tight in the back. It looks like they're actually very purposely trying to make sure that back is very firm and flat, and then they're bending over from it. So there's a lot of like mass out past their toes. So we don't want to see that. We want to make sure the mass is kind of a little more centrally located and supported by the lower half. So that is one of the causes of what would be early extension for many players. So from there, what we do is, here we go, we take the club back. And I drew a couple of red lines on the top of her head. Obviously, they're not in the perfect spot. But what you're going to notice is she is going to move slightly forward and closer to the golf ball. So we already said she has more mass out towards her toes and out towards the golf ball. And then as she continues to make a backswing, she moves it even further forward. And the only way we typically see people do that when they're making a driver swing is when they move forward out over their toes and they try to rotate, they're staying in flexion being bent over, and they're moving their head most likely laterally in the golf swing. So when I make a backswing with my driver, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure my head stays reasonably steady from both of these angles. And from this angle in particular, when I turn, I'm not going to stay bent over. If I do, I'm going to move laterally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tilt a little bit and then extend to keep myself more stable and in the middle. When I do it from this angle, you're going to notice a lot of me is still over the top of my lower half, where the golfer in question here has a lot of her mass way out on top of her toes and even past her toes at this point. But take a look at all these great positions. Look at the left wrist. That's fantastic. Look at the club face. Spectacular. You've done a good job of statically moving into the right positions. We now need to get you moving properly to get you to hit the ball really, really well. On the way down, what you're going to do is you're going to start to rotate really aggressively. We rotate, we're too far out here, we rotate, the club's starting to move a little bit out, and then what's going to be the correction? Well, the upper center is too far forward. We're going to start to extend. We're going to start to do this, and that's the only way we're going to get to the golf ball. So we're going to have to stand back up. We're going to have no inclination or right side bend or lateral flexion through the golf ball. And that's not going to be a great thing to have when we try to strike a golf ball. There we go. So this would be impact here. And what you notice is this golfer starting to get taller and taller and taller. And tall is not a good thing for us. And this is going to lead to some path problems. And even post-impact, there you go, very little lateral side bend or tilt, if you will. We really want to see that golfer stay in their inclination for longer. So what are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? Like, what are the things we're going to do to try to correct this? Number one, let's help you move better in your backswing because you have really good arm, hand, wrist mechanics. All right, so the first thing I would say is if you were to take your stance width for your driver, and if you had a very narrow stance width and you had this big, heavy impact bag and you tried to make a backswing, I'd have a really hard time supporting myself, right? So if I were to try to make a backswing with this bag, my upper center would move significantly. It would move all over the place, right? I want to make sure when you're at address, make sure you have a stance with that you can support yourself with, number one. So when you do make this backswing, you can actually support your upper body, and your upper body doesn't have to translate and move all over the place. So if I were going to take this and move it and throw it as high and far as I can, backswing and forward swing, I'm not going to move my head all around to make that swing. My inference is that I think you're moving this way. You're trying to put the club in the right positions, your weight's too far forward, and then you rotate really hard and fast. It's a hard place to play golf from. So number one, check yourself in terms of lateral motion by taking a heavy object and figuring out how would I throw it and kind of get it moving in the forward direction towards the target. So another great drill that you can do to help increase your odds of being good at the driver and moving around dynamically is put your feet together. Hold on to your driver. And unlike the drill with the bag, we're going to start from a position where our feet are close together and then make them big. So here we go. This is going to help you learn how to move around a little bit so you can use everything you have to hit the ball further. So step back, turn, swing through. What we're trying to do is trying to generate movement to create more movement. So when we start here, when we step back, I don't translate and just turn and have no tilt. I step, keep myself where I was, but now I feel my pressure is in my back foot and I can move forward before I start to turn. So step back, pressure forward, turn and fire. What you can do is then tee up a couple golf balls and you can just kind of walk the line a little bit. Step back, turn, forward. Step back, turn, forward. And as you do it, you're going to get faster and faster and faster, and you're going to get even better at hitting the driver and doing it with the good mechanics you have, but now doing it with better dynamics, which creates motion. Motion will create motion. You need some motion. It's a little too slow, and it's a little bit too out on your toes, and it's a little too far out towards the golf ball. If you do it dynamically, you'll start to correct a lot of those issues.